All right, welcome to Nerds by Screenlight. My name is Aaron.
I'm Vicki.
I'm James.
And it is December, which means it's chili cook-off season here in Fort Morgan. And today we went to the chili cook-off. What were our thoughts on the chili cook-off today?
James, this was your first time.
Yeah, it was my first time coming to it. The Morgan County chili cook-offs. So we missed it last year, but it was pretty good. I gotta say, overall, it was a good experience. First time having a cinnamon roll with chili, which is what?
Yeah, so it's regional, which is interesting. When we moved here, it was not a thing in Metro Denver at all. Mm-mm. And then when we moved here, it became like just people were like, well, this is how we do. And so it's
like, why don't you know about this?
Right.
Oh no.
So it's chili, and then you have cinnamon roll as like, it's not like a dessert. It's like that's your dinner. It's your cinnamon roll
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what?
So we were talking to somebody today at the chili cook-off because we've all along just figured out it's just Fort Morgan. But what she was saying is that it's actually a northeastern Colorado, northeastern like into Nebraska and Kansas kind of thing.
Even Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma, where they do that. And so it's interesting to kind of study like geographical differences in food within community groups and people groups and stuff like that. I think it's brilliant. And I would never, I used to do chili and cornbread with my family. I still do it. But chili and cinnamon rolls just seems like the way to do it now. I'm just like, I don't see any other reason why you can't not do it. But it's good.
Yeah, it's different, but I like it. It's like you're having dessert early.
Yeah, in a weird way.
In a strange, unusual way.
Because you just don't like, you just picture it in your head, everybody, like chili.
Yeah.
And then cinnamon roll.
It does sound weird when you.
I mean, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can't think of anything negative to it.
Right.
I was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But
the cinnamon roll was cold.
It was also a nice weather day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it was bright and sunny.
Yeah.
No like real clouds in the sky. It was 33 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like everything was eventually getting cold out there.
Yeah.
True.
Well, and it wasn't like yesterday where we had like just torrential wind.
It was mad.
With gusts up to 65
doing
miles.
crosswalk at school. I'm supposed to let 5 to 6 people go across the street at a time.
Right.
I was taking families 2 at a time. I was like, it's too windy to be allowed. Just go.
Yeah, it shook our building. I think, James, you were talking about it.
Same.
Shook your guys' building.
Our whole building was rattling.
Yeah.
Ew.
So a lot of the buildings in Fort Morgan, like the modern, like businesses and stuff like that, are a lot of like metal buildings that are not like full, like they're not
brick and such.
Yeah,
No.
they're not. There's the concept that if a hurricane did show up, that those would be the first to go, which is unfortunately the truth because they're not. I mean, they're built to last, but they're not built for like that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I think we're pretty safe from hurricanes out here.
Yeah.
You never
We're not really
know.
close to the ocean.
With the whole climate change, you never know. It could happen.
Once it becomes Arizona Bay.
Right. That's anything's possible in this world. So there you go. That's the latest. I love. So you know Prairie Home Companion, James? What the Prairie Home Companion was or is?
No.
All right. I don't think Vicki knows.
No,
either.
no idea.
So it's a basically comedy show, but it's like the line is, and that's the news from Lake Wobegon. The Prairie Home Companion is like stories from Lake Wobegon, which is not a real place.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a comedy show. It's like Wait, Don't Tell Me, but told in more a storytelling fashion. And so the line is, and that's the news from Lake Wobegon. And so whenever I like come into this moment of transitioning from the intro conversation into our next main part of the episode, I want to pull a Garrison Keillor and be like, and that's the news from Lake Wobegon. But it's not. We're not in Lake Wobegon.
This news from Fort
And that's
Morgan,
the news.
Colorado.
Yeah, from Fort Morgan, Colorado.
Yeah, and that's the latest from Fort Morgan, Colorado. I'll come up with a cooler way to say it, or I won't. I don't really know.
You'll work it in
Northeastern
there
Colorado. I don't know.
We'll figure it out. When we come back from our intro music, it's time to tackle some various nerd topics. Number one at the top is going to be the Umbrella Academy. We're also probably going to watch the Indiana Jones trailer. The latest, the new Indiana Jones trailer, and talk some other stuff about nerddom and movies and.
Yeah, this one's just kind of a grab bag, folks.
Yeah,
We don't really have a theme yet because we're going to
catching
watch the Umbrella Academy,
Yep.
but it's kind of like brand new.
Yeah.
So how do
Yep.
we cover a series?
we do it in pieces.
Yeah.
We're the pieces and parcels. All right, well, you're listening to the Nerds by Screenlight. I was trying to remember what our show was called.
You're listening just
Oh,
to the
no, it's
news
been
from
too
Lake
long.
Wobegon.
Yeah, you're listening to Lake Wobegon. Aaron needs to go take a nap. We'll be right back after this. Hold on and get ready.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please
I can stop.
talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
All right, welcome back to Nerds by Screenlight. My name's Aaron.
I'm Vicki.
James.
And this is the program. It's so funny. We're at like upstairs in the round table, and so I'm literally like behind the mic going, "Yeah," pointing at Vicki and pointing at James, and it's like I'm an orchestra leader. That was a bit weird.
Yes. You just
But
kind of
now
flop
you
around in
understand
your
why I
chair.
love my job. It's fun to direct the choir.
Flop around like an octopus. All right. So we just actually collectively watched the Indiana Jones trailer. It's called The Dial of Destiny is what the next movie is about. And before I talk about what I know and what I've heard,
Okay.
I'm curious to hear your immediate reactions and your gut thoughts on what you just saw.
Well, initially, it is full of action. There's so much.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting too old for this clearly because
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, it's hard to keep up. At the end, I thought it was interesting that he was cracking his whip, that they all pulled the gun. It reminded me of in the first movie
Yeah.
where you have the guy with the knife and he just pulls out his gun and
Shoots
shoots
him,
him.
yeah.
I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's something, a little reversal. That made me chuckle a little.
Okay, James?
Like, I'm still kind of like processing it. And
Yeah.
you know how like I am with a lot of these media stuff.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to it at all
Yeah.
until
Right.
it hits, and then I watch it afterwards.
Sure.
Right.
So it's like, this is my first time seeing it. I knew it came out,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of like, well, this looks like a good, like a kind of return to our old indie movies.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, it's focused on him
Yeah.
versus his son,
Right.
which we didn't see any of the Greaser son in there. So
No, well, Shia LaBeouf has had at minimum, at
Yeah.
best, a troubled
Yeah.
life since.
yeah, so it's kind of like, all right, so this is focused on him doing
Yeah.
his thing.
Yeah.
His little overlay, like the things he talked about, where it's kind of like, you saw the Ark of the Covenant.
Right, yeah,
you saw a man who was like 800 years old.
Right.
You
Yeah.
touched the cup of Christ.
Yeah.
I don't believe in magic.
So, yeah.
You saw a guy get his heart pulled out
Right.
and still live until he got burnt in some lava.
Right. That's the like, okay, so let me allow me.
James's face.
So yeah, if you guys like, it's kind of like yeah, I don't believe in magic.
Yes, you do.
Indy. We have some
He doesn't
severe.
want to believe in magic despite
severe
all
problems.
the evidence.
Right.
Contrary.
The Alzheimer's has hit Indy. He's
Yeah.
forgotten his past adventures. He's so here's okay. So I'll share with you what I know because I've watched a few videos and I've gone back and I've looked at what I'm looking at, and the rumors that have come out about Indy right now and a lot of the back channel noise is that the test audiences that they've been showing the movie to, the pieces they've shown or the endings, none of the audiences are coming back happy.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
They're all coming back like, this is no. So there's this YouTuber on YouTube. There's a YouTuber on YouTube. No.
Who would have figured?
Color me surprised. His name is The Drinker, and he's a critical. He looks at movies through a critical lens. And talks about like looking at like actual story structure and how stories are told and how characters are created and all these things. I really like him. He does go a little political sometimes because he's very much anti certain parts of the current culture, which
Yeah.
I'm neither taking a stand for or against there. I'm just saying that his critical eye, aka critical drinker,
Yeah.
looks at stuff in a way that's that it doesn't just say, "Oh, that's cool, I like that, it's shiny." It's like, okay, kind of what we do here. He digs into the layers and goes,
Yeah.
"I don't know about that."
It doesn't fall into nostalgia berries.
Right? Yeah.
Do you remember this? I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yay! Look at that. Did you know?
Nostalgia
Okay,
berries.
so let's take.
Well, it was a South Park reference where they
Oh, got it.
because they made an episode making fun of all that stuff. Where it's like we gotta have everything make callbacks to everything so that everybody can be like, "Oh, did you remember?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh,
So did you and you may have not noticed this, but in the trailer, they're in like a B-52 cockpit, and it looks exactly like the Millennium Falcon cockpit. That annoyed me. I was like, come on. Like, you knew what you were doing here. Don't do this. This is not even just nostalgia. This is cheap. So part of what I've come to understand about what theory is and what the leaks and what the back channel and behind the scenes information has shown is, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what's going to happen or what possibly may be a part of this plot, because we're 6 months out from this movie still,
yeah,
is that the Dial of Destiny is a time travel device. Because what they talked about in a lot of the articles about the show, about the movie, is that they de-age Harrison Ford. And you saw that in the clips. You saw him in his younger days. You saw him even with like heavy stubble in his like before he's as old as he is now.
Yeah.
You also saw him in New York on a horse in the middle of a parade.
Yeah.
That also is alleged to be a time travel piece. We also get a slight picture of his goddaughter or whatever she is to him.
Yeah.
And what the drinker and a lot of other people have suggested is that it's going to lean into time travel.
Yeah.
And Indy's going to go back in time and relive adventures or do things.
Are they going to step into little snippets of the old movies?
Right. Well, I don't know, and I suspect that's a possibility. But what the drinker is, his theory, and I can't lend credence to it because again, it's third hand, fourth hand, all rumor based.
Yeah.
Is that what they're going to do to Indy? Is he's going to go back in time, somehow meet his younger self, and then die or something. His younger self is going to die. Indy will then disappear from the timeline, and the goddaughter will take up the mantle of Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
But even if you look at the movie,
He goes back in time, and he's actually the guy that gives the younger self the hat. So the hat is a time paradox that keeps. No, whatever. I'm sorry. I just figured let's go for the real bait there.
Well, and I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past. Time travel episodes or time travel movies, or even just the concept of time travel, is dangerous.
Yes.
Because you run the risk of, like, if it's just a Deus Ex Machina, did I say that right? Deus Ex Machina. There it is.
Deus Ex Machina.
There it is. I got it right the second time. The danger is that if you use time travel as a MacGuffin, as just like a thing to do, ooh, we are going time traveling, versus like an actual piece of the story that has real impact but that's the problem with time travel, right? You know that the character has to live because there's no risk or reward.
Yep.
Inherent in that. The nice thing about Indiana Jones, we're not going to talk about. Well, we could talk about it if we need to. This could become an Indiana Jones episode. We're not going to. Well, we could
do the movies if you want to.
The fourth movie, which was the aliens.
Oh, the Christian Skull.
I avoided that one.
Blah.
So, but you look at the first three Indiana Jones movies, and there was no little cutesy attempt to do anything. It was a straightforward story with real risk to our heroes and real risk to the characters associated with it. I mean, they
with callbacks to like the Pulp Fiction stories of the 1920s and stuff.
That's why those movies were so successful.
Yeah,
because they told a strong story and they didn't cheapen the experience by trying to do something cutesy and like try to subvert expectations, which is what a lot of Hollywood does these days. And I look at this and I go, I don't know what this movie's about yet. Mm-hmm. Like the trailer tells me that, okay, well, there's some callbacks to past Indy. Sala shows up and says, I miss this.
Yeah.
It's not over yet. And
I mean, that's like that whole speech there feels like big hints too. I miss this. I miss when we were younger.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. That's what their little conversation is about. And it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah. But, and the thing about it is that this is a very blanket statement because I'm coming at this from the Star Trek situation, because Star Trek, the issues with Discovery and the issues with Enterprise were that they were prequels. They went into the past.
Yeah.
They tried to tell a story that had already been told through various mythology building episodes in the various Star Trek series.
Or novels. And
right, yeah. And so it was just like, this is not going to work. This is not going to... I mean, Enterprise has its own merits, and I think... to go back and watch that series, I think it would probably come back with a more positive outlook.
Yeah.
Ish, but Discovery and me are still on the ropes. I haven't decided whether or not I'm actually going to sit down and watch the dang thing. Never mind even talking about Picard. But the point of it is, movies and material and media is so much more successful when it moves forward. Mm-hmm. When it tells a story that goes and has impact going forward.
Yeah.
If you time travel back, like... now you have to literally play by the rules of everything that's been established.
Yes.
And if you try and like, oh, we're just going to try and like, patch over this, whatever we do with, hey, it's fine. Here's our little MacGuffin or here's our little whatever. People are going to be like, dude, this is cheap.
Yep.
This is not real. There's no weight here. But I think the suspicion that the drinker and others have is that in his going back to the past, he somehow erases himself and he vanishes from existence or doesn't whatever. And then his goddaughter, the young woman, takes over the responsibilities and becomes Indiana Jones or whatever. When
it's like, no, that name should just die with him.
Yeah, and I get why they wanted to make, because I honestly think they wanted to make up for Crystal Skull, because Crystal Skull, reading the articles about the reflection on Crystal Skull, not a lot of people liked that movie. Mm-mm. It was the being like the lead fridge or whatever being fridged became the new Jump the Shark. And it was just disappointing as all heck. And the ending with the aliens and the triple, double, quadruple cross by Mutt, or not Mutt, by whatever the guy's name was, who was his partner. It just became tired. We're like, are you really going to swerve again? Come on. Mm-hmm. And it just became, and it was a joke. So I think in reading those interviews, but just like, yeah, like they try and like make it like pretty flower it over, like, oh, it was just it wasn't really a great story, you know, it did, or it wasn't as strong, or it just.
Well, I mean, if you look at the first 3 movies, they tell the same story if you just go down to the bare bones.
Yeah, but
we don't need any more.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah,
because they highlight something weird and unique in each one of them. Ark of the Covenant, the stones from India, which I forget, like there's a name for them, whatever.
Yeah.
And then also boom, the
cup.
The cup.
Yeah, Cup of Christ.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Holy Grail.
Yeah, the
there
Holy
we
Grail.
go.
Yeah.
It's like, boom. Okay, great. You have these huge these fantastic little like mythological things that have basics in reality, even though they're magical and whatever and whatnot. And he dealt with those weird, unique situations that stopped something horrible from coming up.
Yep.
And there's usually was some sort of double cross or whatever, or some weird thing that happened where a character did betray him, not necessarily the bad guys, but maybe for their own means.
Right.
But they made up for that and came baame around. It's like, and it worked for all 3 movies. All 3 were blockbusters.
Yep.
Sure.
Just do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think the beauty of Indiana Jones is that yes, he's old in this movie. Like Harrison Ford is not a spring chicken anymore.
Well, you can see it in his movie in that scene where he's like kind of shuffling away from Sala. He's got like the old, like everybody's seen an old gentleman walking around. It's like they have a shuffle to them. It's like that's what he was doing.
Yep. So I think you could tell an Indiana Jones story, and I think if you were competent at knowing how to do that, it like the Dial of Destiny, it suggests to me the Harry Potter or whatever the time turner. It reminds me of that, and that has me concerned because in Harry Potter it worked within the narrative structure to have the time turner because it was explained after all these things were happening that we didn't really understand, and then all of a sudden, Hermione was using the time. Yeah. It feels kind of like a trope almost of like, ooh, we've got the Dial of Destiny. Okay, you've given away the plot now. The Dial of Destiny means you're gonna have a speed time dial or clock
something
dial.
like that. I thought of it like jokingly because we had the fridge incident from the thing. I was like, oh, maybe it's like a washing machine dial.
Get the bleach. Let's clean this off.
Just something like that. I was like, oh, cool. I was just jokingly in my head hearing the name. I'm like, okay. Because you just made up an item now, where it's kind of like the other ones had some sort of basis in mythology, in some mythological element already, where it's like just use another mythological item as your thing.
Yeah.
You don't need to make like the washing machine dial.
My head is going to Indiana Jones being the manager of the nearby laundromat, and that's the Dial of Destiny.
you turn the dial, you climb on in, and boom, you jump through time.
We need a smaller person in here. Ooh, look, a child.
Yeah,
it's not going to go well.
There's your alternative story idea, Lucasfilms and whoever else is producing this. Actually, they didn't write this. Lucas didn't write this, and Spielberg is not directing.
Oh.
They have a producer credit.
Oh, of course,
but they didn't write or produce it. Or they didn't write or they're not the filmmakers on it. The filmmaker is actually pretty strong. I've looked at his film history. He's not a guy off the street. He's got some good credits. But just looking at that and watching what they're doing, there's a lot of like montaging through some story. And there's not a concerted like, oh, okay, this is the story. This is what we're dealing with.
One thing is I'm also happy because they didn't do that, because a lot of trailers these days kind of give away the whole thing. So it's like, why do I need to go see the movie now? I know what's going on.
Right. But I think in this they give us too much montage.
I felt lost. I was like, "This is what? What is happening?"
Yeah, and they call it a teaser trailer. It's like it's like I get it, like because there's the teaser trailer, and then I'm sure in 3 months we'll actually have a full trailer.
Yeah, we'll get the full trailer.
But it's the thing for me is what I don't like about teasers is it does bias me against the movie. Yeah. Like I'm just like, I don't want to watch this. Like this doesn't seem like an indie movie. Like you've given me a bunch of schlock. And I don't like the schlock that I'm looking at. It looks unkempt. And there's been some criticism about like some of the CGI that's happening in that trailer.
Yeah.
Where you see like him on the horse, but also on the car. And so there's some concern there that they haven't gone practical. They've gone mostly CGI. And it's like, oh guys, this was
well, as we've seen through Star Wars, like elements is like when you go more practical, you don't go wrong.
Yeah, and people actually will respond to that and will engage with it. And bring into that. So yeah, there are enough people concerned about Indiana Jones 5 and just where it's going. There is the concern that we're there's a reason why they haven't gone to Back to the Future. The movie, the series ended at 3, and there hasn't been. I mean, they had the musical that they put together, but they haven't gone back and
Well,
revisited.
didn't Robert Zemeckis, basically the guy behind all that, just say no?
Yeah, he did. He was very firm in saying we will not do.
Good for him.
The trilogy is it. That's the movie series. We're done.
Yeah.
Well, and it was.
And there's some sort of written, like, I don't know if he died or not, but I think he did. And he
Like a
had it written in his will or something, like, no.
Yeah, I will not give.
Don't
away
do
the
this.
rights will not be given away.
I think so. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I
Right.
know it's like they talked about it briefly, and it was just kind of like this huge no from him, and it was just
Yeah.
kind of like, okay,
Yep.
never
Well, and
mind, don't touch it anymore.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you couldn't do it with the original stars because obviously Michael J. Fox is very deep into
Yeah.
Parkinson's right
Yeah.
now. It would be impossible for him to be able to portray.
Well, I mean, they just got, like, I think it was a New York Comic Con that just happened a little while ago, where him and Doc met
Yep.
back up,
They reunited on stage, and it was
and everybody's
very,
like, oh, and then they had the huge nostalgia thing, where it's like, oh, they're back together,
Yeah.
let's do another movie, and it's kind of like, no, it died immediately because
Michael J. Fox can't. He's
It's like, guys, did you remember when they came on one of the talk shows? I can't remember which one. And it was like the anniversary for when they went back into the future.
Yeah.
And they had them both on. And I looked at Michael J. Fox, and it just made me sad.
Yeah.
I just felt bad for him.
Well, and he's talking. I think his response is always like, "Don't be sad for me. Like, we're working on a cure. I know where I'm at. I know my life expectancy. I know what I got going on. I'm not. This is not a death sentence for me. This
Well,
is
yeah,
just,
he's gone on record and said a lot of times before he makes public appearances in the physical, he won't take his medication
yeah,
so that people can see, like, this is what we're dealing with.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why he, like, in a lot of his public things, he shakes so bad and has
Yeah.
so many issues, is because he took his meds off, so it's like, so people can see
yeah.
this is what it is.
This is reality.
Yeah.
This is not me trying to patch it up or band-aid myself about
Yeah.
it. So yeah, we won't see another Back to the Future.
And I'm glad.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. It's a good series. Like, it's a good 3 movies. The second one's a little sketch. Third one's just plain old fun.
Yep.
And the first one is the perfect movie, and they teach it in film schools. As Back to the Future is one of the perfect films from start to finish of how you have a movie that just rocks and socks you, and it's good stuff. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. It's, and like I said, it's like I am tired of them just mining the
Yeah.
past for
Yeah.
stuff now. Stop.
Yeah.
Do something unique. Do something new.
Yeah.
Like, it's just getting exhausting.
Yeah, because having to dig up these old IPs and to try to refresh them, and it's just like, look, just create something new. Like, give us something that's different. Give us a story. We've talked about that. I think there's an issue with writing. I think there's an issue with writers and having original ideas, and I think they're afraid to do movies that matter. Because, like, the Marvel formula is put out a Marvel movie, people will go see it.
Yep.
Put out and unfortunately,
I think that's why we're getting superhero fatigue now.
Yeah.
People are tired of it.
yeah, it's hard to keep going at. Like, I haven't watched any of the new Marvel stuff. I watched Doctor Strange in the universe of whatever
Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, and it was interesting. But what I was upset about, and what a lot of people were upset about, is they took the Scarlet Witch. Or whatever her name.
Yeah, there's Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch, and destroyed anything that she had done in the series, the progress that she had made, or whatever. And so it just became. I mean, she was really rocking awesome, like contained within that movie. But it took a character whose arc had already been sorted or been processed, and then
What they did is they gave you a dark turn to someone that could have been a hero.
Yeah,
But they highlighted it pretty good. Like, if you think back of our character arc, barely anybody really believed in her.
yeah,
Cap did,
yeah,
but then Cap disappeared.
yeah,
The one love of her life was gone,
yeah,
and that's why in the series you see, like, how badly she was going,
yeah,
because she basically took over the whole town, was mind wiping people and
Yep.
forcing the happy life that she always wanted on others.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, she broke bad because no one believed in her,
yeah,
and the person that did was gone.
right. Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of like, all right, this is what happens, folks.
Yeah, but I think for others, the murder, the absolute viciousness of the brutality of the murders in Multiverse of Madness, like, she kills brutally every single person she runs into, and it's done in the Marvel kind of funny.
I think she knows. I mean, it's also one of those things, like, she's fought with other superheroes, she's
Yeah.
fought other super beings, so she knows if I don't put you down,
right.
you most likely you're going to bounce back up. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the brutality and the cruelness of how it happens. I think that's what turned people off. And I mean, it is what it is. It's a good movie. It's got interesting ideas, but it I don't know. It didn't feel like woo. It just kind of felt like well, okay. I liked certain elements of it, but like the undead version of Doctor Strange that he buries and then brings back as a catch.
Yeah, because
like,
I need a body right now.
Right, I need a body, so it works out. But yeah, it's I don't know.
I liked it because it's like it is like Doctor Strange in a lot of his comics deal with those weirder, odder things that the other superheroes don't even get to see hints of.
Yeah, and we get
and so it's kind of like here you go. This is like what the stuff he kind of deals with, folks, and it's off the chain, out the deep end.
Oh yeah, no, it's imaginative like crazy. Speaking of imaginative and crazy, let us pivot over for a little bit to the Umbrella Academy.
Still superhero stuff, just different.
True.
Very different. I have watched more than these two have. You guys have made it, what, one episode in? Maybe 1.5? It is an unusual movie in that series is that it does play at what the structure of it is similar in what Resident Evil did, and it flashes back a little bit.
Yeah.
But the deal with this is that it limits those flashbacks. It doesn't lean on those.
True.
It doesn't rely on them to tell you the entire comprehensive story. It does it as a way to say, okay, this is where they came from. We're only going to show you what you need to see. And then, we're only going to tell you what you need to know, and then we're going to show the rest.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you, okay, this was the original family. This is what their particular talents were. This is who didn't, who what. Okay, now we've told you enough. We're done telling you. Back to the present, and now we show you what that looks like now and how that works. And that is what it's successful at, is it shows you how each of them hate each other a lot. It shows you the impact of her having who wrote the girl, Vanya, writing the tell-all book.
Yeah.
And how nobody likes her.
Yep.
None of the family likes her. They're all still mad about it.
Well, there's the one that's like, no, I'm glad you came back.
Which one? Was that the
girl, the other girl, I forget her name.
Oh, her older sister?
Yeah.
Okay.
She like hugged her and said, no, I'm glad you're here. You have a right to be here.
Oh, yeah. And so what her story is that she's like a pop superstar, and she's going through a separation with her husband and her child and all that. But there's layers to these characters. And I don't know what.
Well, all of them are super complicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they act. I mean, it's like, here, I'm going to give you superpowers.
Yeah.
But you still have to deal with all the normal emotions and such as a normal human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, whatever went wrong where they turned bitter on each other and angry with each other, well, that still exists.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to be like, oh, we're just going to sweep it under the rug and everything's going to be okay and we're going to work together and whatever. No, it's like, no, we have a lot of issues.
And I think
we're just not unpacking them all at once.
Right. And that's what I love about the show is that it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
And so I talked about this with Chris, but there's a show on Netflix called 1899.
I've been told I should watch that.
Please don't. I mean, okay, actually,
okay.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. You can watch it, and if you like it, then I know that I'm the problem.
Okay.
There's a lot of can of worms waiting to be opened.
It is a slow burn, but it is like beyond slow burn. It is like it's the old lady who's going 5 on a highway and just like beep, 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 and you're just like,
this is the show that you were like yelling at him like, Aaron, why are you putting yourself through this torture?
I started watching it
this
for
is
like
the one.
I watched it for a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And I was like, you got to speed up, movie. You got to start You got to start showing. Like, come on. And at a certain point, I think it was like episode 3. I was like, what the hell's going on? And then I was like, you know what? I hate watching to the rest. So I hate watched to the end episode, to the finale, and I was just like, you have got to be kidding me.
Okay.
I came in repeatedly and said, stop torturing yourself.
But I was like, I want.
Like, did you just hear him making like tortured animal noises?
Basically.
And they're like,
oh, come on. Why would you even write that stupid plot? You can see the wires, stuff like that.
Okay.
Well, there weren't any wires. But
well, no, but this is I'm speaking metaphorically, hypothetically.
Right.
This is what you do.
So the idea is
I see the strings holding this puppet, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah. But I'm shining a light
Writing
on
a letter.
a strongly worded letter, mind you. So no, the idea behind 1899.
Give me access to my Yelp account, as I said earlier.
I will Yelp this. I will Yelp this show into the ground. So
wow.
So the idea of the show is that they're on a ship and they're traveling from Europe to America.
Okay.
And they've all paid their tickets. But the undercurrent, no pun intended, to the story is that there's a ship that 4 months ago went missing on the same track.
Okay.
And certain members of
So
people.
is this spoilery nose or is
No, this
yeah,
is
yeah.
just general topic. So
Okay.
you'll introduce this, and so slowly but surely the show begins to kind of have some weird moments where things are not as they should be. There's something unusual happening.
Okay.
And then they get a signal or they get a transmission that gives them coordinates to coordinates.
Okay.
And the suspicion is that these are the coordinates where the other ship is or was.
Okay.
And so they divert themselves to go find the missing ship.
Okay.
Well, they find the missing ship and it's empty and it's
a ghost ship now.
It's a ghost ship and the inside of the ship is a mess and whatever. And that's where things start to unravel. The problem with what the show does, and I will do my best not to spoil, so I'll do my very best here. The problem with what the show does is that it has a beginning, it has an intent, it has a concept, it has a goal. The goal is when you get to that final episode and the final part of this, the 8th episode, you figure it out. Everything goes like boom shakalaka, we know what's happening. Okay, and you have a 10-minute sequence, maybe even less than 10-minute sequence at the end, where you figure out what's been happening.
Okay.
And you're just sitting there going, I just spent 7.5 to 8 episodes to get here. We could have been here 4 episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
They draw it out so much, and this is what Resident Evil did, is they draw it out so much that you're just like, it turns into basically an 8-hour movie at this point.
Okay.
And you're just like, movie, you gotta figure out your pacing. You got like,
Give me a little bit more up front.
right. You don't need to tell me, but you need to show me more. And so there's parts of it where you're just like, oh my God, what are we doing? Now, mind you, there are people on the internet, on Facebook and everywhere that are like, this is the best show ever. It's so imaginative. Blah, 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 blah. But me, I'm just like, I am not going to.
Internet. He was very vocal with his complaints. Take it as the witness and on who lives in the same house.
The acting is incredible. The storytelling is awesome. Like overall, like it's a really great idea. But by the time you get to the end, it's clearly aiming for a second season.
Okay.
But the problem is that it takes so long to get there, and they tease it out so slowly that by the time you start figuring out or they start showing you and telling you what's really happening, you're just like, this is dumb. Why are we down this trail? So
Okay.
if you watch it, and I will encourage you to try it, you may find it's like the Rings of Power, where you're just like, are you absolutely kidding me right now?
Oh yeah, then I gave up on.
Apparently, there's talk of them recasting or doing a hard reboot. I don't know if that's true. I've heard.
I
whispers.
probably doubt that.
I heard whispers, but
You
never-
dump $1 billion into a project.
Right, you're not gonna try and fix it that way. So anyway, the 1899 is just kind of
Which I feel bad for the actors
I
involved in
do
that.
because like
They're good actors.
and that's something I've learned, and I think you probably would agree with me, James, is that you never want to go after the actor
No.
because what it is it's the writing and the direction.
Yep.
That's what put that actor into that position of trying to make the best of what they got. But what they had was junk.
Yeah, here's a poop sandwich.
Yeah.
Like you can throw pickles and coleslaw that are amazing on the side, but or chips that are just homemade.
Right.
But that sandwich remains
Poop.
a poop sandwich.
Because Twilight's another example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because the Twilight books are all right. They're not masterpieces of literature.
Okay, thank God. I was like, there's got to be a caveat that.
What is
caveat
happening
that.
in the room? We're disagreeing about this.
But like, here's the thing: as a language arts teacher, and I had to accept this long ago, and it was a realization because people put down the Twilight books. They do.
Yep.
They do it all the time, and it's just the way it is. But what I have learned to respond with, and well, again, I will always caveat it. I'll say, look, they're not going to be winning any literature awards.
Nope.
They're not going to win the Pulitzer. They're not going to set the world on fire when it comes to historical literature that stands the test of time. But here's the thing: millions of people, boys, girls, women, men, read Twilight. Mm-hmm. They read those books, and they still read them to this day. They will go back and reread them. I am a literature teacher. I was a literacy teacher in 6th grade for 2 years. I am happy that they're reading.
True.
Will I tell them that they need to eventually graduate up and into something bigger and better?
See, there.
Yes.
That's where I get irritated because they don't.
Yeah.
They need someone to be like, here, you like this?
Yeah.
Here's some more adult fare that's along
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
lines.
Yep.
Let's get you your diet. Let's refine your palate here. Instead, it's like, no, we're just gonna shove this ground beef, sloppy joes at
Right.
you.
We're just gonna keep eating YA and YA and YA and YA. And
Yeah.
here's the deal, because there's people
Because that's what it is. Twilight is your high school cafeteria sloppy Joe. Like, here you go, guys.
yeah.
But then it's like, hey, no, there's sushi right down the lane, dude. That's made by like a professional sushi chef that's been at this for like 35 years.
Shipped in overnight from the Atlantic.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Pacific.
Pacific.
Let's be
sorry.
right. Let's get our ocean
I'm
right.
not a social studies or a science teacher. I teach language arts.
Well, I lived in Japan, so it's like I know where I'm at. I'm just saying, it's like
this is why you're on the podcast.
you got
experts
Jiro cranking out the sushi just down the aisle, swatch over.
Yeah.
But no one's making that push.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, let me just devour this garbage.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, stop eating that sloppy Joe.
If you're on Twitter and the outrage machine has fired up, which I'm sure it won't because not a lot of people listen to our podcast yet.
Yeah.
But this is James's opinion about it. But I have a similar.
No, again, like I said, I am happy they are reading.
Yeah,
But it's like, dear God in heaven, if you exist out there somewhere, force these people to read something better.
I'm sure the Lord heard your prayer and is like, okay, mandatory reading for all.
Oh, I'd be so happy.
There's a reason why you're not God. That would be interesting, actually.
Yes, wow.
James's world.
Why do I feel like it would be darker?
It probably would, but it'd be a lot of fun.
Mandatory reading.
Internet, you didn't hear his
D&D
undercover
games.
comments about what to put in the chili.
Oh,
I
yeah.
did.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
come on.
concerned.
That was hilarious. Admit it.
Anyway, so
I'm gonna put these people in my chili.
From the park.
Yeah,
they won't be missed. That's what he said.
Yeah, you take some of these people down here from Riverside. No one's gonna miss them. You can be the Sweeney Todd of Fort Morgan.
Okay, we need to stop.
Oh, come on. It was funny. Even Aaron's turning red over there from laughter. But I mean, it's like, come on, folks. I'm just saying, like, James's world would be a world of just random hilarity. Or one time, like, we're playing D&D, and like the guy gives us bags of money, and I'm like, shake a. I'm like, when I open this up, am I going to get hit with a giant scorpion?
All right.
And then be like, yeah, then James's world would be something like that. You got paid for your work. Here's your sack. Is there a giant scorpion in there, or is it gold coins?
Is it like
Figure it out.
Nightmare Before Christmas?
Nah.
Okay.
But it'd be a lot of fun, too.
the nightmare of James. Jamesmas.
I mean, I just think of these random stuff and it just jumps out. I don't know.
There we go. All right. So I don't even know where we're going with this.
Oh, we were talking about
Umbrella Academy.
Umbrella Academy.
So,
If
like-
we wind it all the way back.
That was good.
Which actually does happen in Umbrella Academy. There's a cool time travel sequence that happens later in the episodes, which is really cool. But like, that's good television. That's good writing. There are like, okay. So have you watched Dead to Me or heard about it?
I heard about it, but I haven't watched
So
it.
the idea behind Dead to Me, this is not a spoiler because, well, you'll eventually figure it out. But we meet. I think it's Jenny McCarthy is the star in one of it.
That was Christina Applegate.
Oh, Christina. Yeah, it is Christina Applegate. Sorry, mixing up my stars. So Christina what?
Applegate.
There we go. Christina
Yes.
Applegate is a woman. Her husband.
Married with Children lady.
Yes. So her mother died. Her husband dies because of a hit and run accident.
Okay.
And it's
He
tragic.
got made into chili.
My God.
No, he gets hit and run. He dies. They don't. It's on an isolated road. There's no cameras. There's no trace. No one knows how it happened, and she's just. It's grief is a major part of her life.
Yeah.
And this woman comes into her life and meets her at a grief sharing session.
And brings her special pot of chili.
No, you are stuck on that. Good Lord.
Look at the laugh I got out of you, so it counts.
Jeez. So she shows up and starts to talk to her and meets with her, and this is not a spoiler because you eventually find this out in like episode 2 or 3. The swerve is that the woman that meets her at the grief and begins to become part of her life, eventually moves in with her, is the one that hit her husband. And
Yeah, I was about to say
wondered.
that. This is the lady that hit the husband, isn't
and
it?
she did, and she knows it. And so she was trying to ingratiate herself and make good on the fact that she murdered her husband. But as you start to find out that Christina Applegate and her husband had been fighting and struggling, and that she had like physically like hit him and thrown him out of the house that night.
Oh.
And he had been wandering the streets.
No wonder she feels guilty.
Well, there is that element that she's like, no, I kicked him out of the house. He didn't even have his running shoes on. He wasn't really going for a run. And the concept is that he was on that road just wandering, waiting to get hit or something. And so, so at that moment, it's like, okay. And then she reveals that Christina Applegate's character loses it and says, get out of my house. And there's a whole thing there. And then it all goes off the rails because then there's another murder by Christina Applegate where she kills somebody, and so it becomes just this massive, I don't even want to say like out of control train that none of the characters are redeemable. Every single plot point becomes just more and more terrible.
Yep.
And it's kind of like Walter White and the show that he was in,
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, where you were sympathetic to him in some ways. I could never watch that show. Couldn't do it, can't do it, won't do it.
It is fantastic.
It's well written, I'm sure.
Oh, it's the writing on that show is phenomenal.
But the problem is, I think in that show, because I have only watched like 1 episode to 2 episodes, and I just couldn't do it because I was like, I can't be okay with this guy who's making meth. Not my jam. I know it's deeper than that, but it was just like, just as a conscious thing, I was like, maybe I'll revisit it sometime. But the point of it is that in this show, it's
well, because I'll put it to you this way, because you're worried about the whole meth element.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's very important in season 1.
Yeah.
And how he can do this and all that kind of stuff like that, because it needs to be the vehicle which takes us to later,
right,
where we get to see the character like really reveal his true colors.
Yeah.
I would say.
Okay.
And like, so you need that kind of like thing that kind of like why
yeah.
it's pushing all this forward.
Yeah.
So if you take that out, it kind of really wouldn't make too much sense.
So it's got to be it's a foundational piece of the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, here, this is where we're starting at round 1.
Right.
And here's your foundation. This guy is very good at chemistry. He's a chemistry wizard.
Yeah.
But he's teaching at a community college.
Yeah.
And then he makes meth. He learns how to get into it. And then he breaks bad and he gets further and further and further down the line.
Yeah.
And then the tumbling action that you get in season 4 and 5 are like some of the best TV show writing I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Especially the last couple episodes of season 5 were so good.
Yeah.
It blew my mind.
So, like, in the converse side of that, I have watched, I think, up to season 4 of Better Call Saul, and I love that show. It is an incredibly written, powerful, and he's not always redeemable.
No.
Like, the things they do are not, but it's less, you can accept it. In Dead to Me, it amps it up.
Okay.
And it is so hard for me because none of the characters... There's so far, I think I'm on season 2. There's still 3 full seasons. The series finale happened, whatever, and I've made it through the halfway point of season 2, I think, or whatever. And there's no redemptive arc that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Yes, they are emotional, and there's a lot of crying, and there's a lot of tears, and there's a lot of emotional catharsis.
Yeah.
But at no point does it ever become like, okay, they're going to be better. They're still murdering. They're still covering it up. They're still lying to each other to the point of like when it gets exposed, it's a minor explosion, but then it kind of just seesaws back to being okay. And again, this is a personal view. People out there might be like, no, it's the greatest show of all time. You're an idiot. And I accept that. I'll take that because, again, I view
that's why I like Breaking Bad's thing. Because he's doing all these horrible things.
Right.
But there's consequences.
Right.
The show shows the consequences as he goes.
Right. And so in this show, I mean...
And like the consequences are serious.
And that's the problem with the show is that like someone confesses to murder to a police lieutenant or police officer. And they're just like, nah, I don't have any evidence of it. I can't really... I need to find the body or whatever. They don't get arrested. They don't like...
What?
Yeah. This is why I've like been trying to make sense of the show because I'm like, wait, she just went and confessed to the crime, or this person then said, hey, I know who killed him. She did it. She told me.
Oh.
And there's nothing that really like she gets arrested for some things but there's no like big murder charge or whatever. And maybe it gets better. Maybe in the rest of season 2, consequences actually have weight. But like it doesn't really feel like that.
See, that irritates me when they do stuff and like where's the consequences?
Yeah, where's the actual weight of what's happening?
Where's the weight?
Yeah, and I'd be curious if you were to watch Dead to Me, the first couple of episodes in season 1, and then maybe slowly but surely through the rest of like December into January, you're able to watch the rest and get to where I'm at. I'd be curious to see how you feel, because it is just as a writing person, as a teacher, I go, wait, what?
See, this leads into our conversation we had over breakfast today, which I wish we would have recorded, where we talked about. We were talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So Vicky's kind of out of this one, but you can follow along with what I'm going to say.
Right.
Dungeons and Dragons tabletop game. I think pretty much anybody that's listening to this knows what it is.
Yeah.
And when you're playing this game, you're supposed to be playing characters that have weaknesses, flaws, and all that kind of stuff, whatever. But if you're just going around, like I get tired of playing games where it's like we just go around, we kill a bunch of people, we make people angry, whatever, and no consequences.
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about is Adventure League. So Adventure League in D&D is episodic kind of things, but the the consequences and the connective tissue ends with each
because
episode.
sometimes it doesn't just apply to Adventure League. It just also applies to general games too,
Okay.
where it's kind of like, I understand the game is kind of like you're supposed to go and have your escape, and everybody wants to play a high-powered whatever, doing whatever.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, maybe just with time have come around where it's like, no, I want consequences.
Yeah.
Like if I make that Duke or Lord or whatever angry because I showed him up or something else like that, bring me some consequence.
Yeah.
If I murder hobo a whole town of people, even if they're bad or infected or whatever, give me some consequences.
Right. There needs to be some ripples that lead into the world that bounce back to me and eventually catch me out, or
something like that. Because it's like you just don't live in a vacuum where you can just do whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
There has to be, where's the other shoe coming at me from the darkness, you know?
Well, what we talked about is that Dungeons and Dragons, as a language arts teacher, it is really cool because at its base, the idea behind Dungeons and Dragons, especially the campaigns you're talking about that last several months, sometimes years, where every time you get together, you pick up where you left off and you continue to navigate and tell the story. Each character should have weaknesses and strengths.
Yep.
And each character should want to explore themselves and who they are and what, like, not just the killing everything and, being tanks and
Let
stuff
me
like
just
that.
gather a ton of loot.
Right.
I'm like, great, you have 50,000 gold pieces.
Right.
But what is your character really getting out of this?
Right. Where is the drama? Where is the change? Where is the arc? Where is the development?
Where's the inter-party conflict that doesn't break down to just violence?
Right.
Where you're just like argue with each other.
Right, and you disagree vehemently with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you say, "Look, no, I'm going to punch you, or I can't handle you when you're doing that." Like and that happens in groups, in dynamics, in friendships, where you just kind of go, "Okay, this is not cool. Like we got to talk about this. Like this can't work." And sometimes you figure it out, and sometimes you make a compromise, but that takes time.
Like Aaron's fear of Bette Midler.
I was wondering when this was going to come back.
We're gonna work on that. We
You are
will
the
get some wind beneath
with
your
my
wings,
wings.
sir.
I'll be working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was Dolly Parton in 9 to 5.
Yeah, that was 9-5. That was
Okay.
Dolly Parton.
She does
But
sing
we'll
a
get
song
you
about
some
a
rose.
though.
The
Yeah,
rose.
roses.
We got you, buddy.
I hate this really right now. I hate all of it. Oh,
You guys are welcome for the callbacks.
Bette Midler was the song about the
rose.
No, the Company B. Company B. She was the innovator.
was?
Of that. Yeah, well, the original was the Andrews Sisters.
Yeah.
But Bette Midler has a version of that song.
Oh,
that
okay.
is not bad. Actually, it's kind of cool. But the Andrews Sisters are the originators of that.
But yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, it's like I don't know. The other thing is like I have to admit, it's like my reading and the things I've been sampling lately have been way more serious.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know I'm reading Schindler's List.
Yeah.
That's not a light book, folks.
No, it is not.
So it's like I'm staring into like the dark parts of humanity, just
Yeah.
going like, oh god.
Yeah.
The details in there,
Yeah. Well, and
Wow.
to swerve for a second, we'll swerve in and out of the lanes here for
There's
a
a
second.
lot of swerving right now,
Yeah.
if we're real honest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is like
What were we talking about again?
yeah. Go ahead.
It's a grab bag. So when you're talking about Schindler's List, so as you are, or we talked about this morning, I think maybe, Kanye West came out and did some crazy stuff on the Alex Jones show, to the point that even Alex Jones was like, "What?"
Yeah.
But what has happened overnight, and is interesting, is the Kanye West subreddit, at least as of last night, had turned into a Holocaust reminder and Holocaust historical review.
Yeah.
subreddit.
Before that, they made it a Taylor Swift
Yeah, it was-
subreddit
it was a
for
Taylor-
a while, and
it
then it
was a-
became Taylor Swift Holocaust. Now it's just Holocaust.
Yeah, but it's like
weird.
Holocaust information.
Yep.
It's like, these are the people that died. This is the reality. This is the facts. Because part of what Kanye West is basically a Holocaust denier, and also basically saying all
not
these things
again.
about. So, but this is actually, it was not just him tweeting out something. It was him verbalizing it fully on a show, recorded from start to finish. And so what's interesting is a lot of people, most people, 99.9% of people have looked at that and go, yeah, no, the Holocaust was real, and this is a horrifying event, and we need to keep remembering it. We need to remember this happened and not forget it, and not try and trivialize it. It is a real thing.
And try not to go back there, because oh man,
Yeah.
oh man.
There's a reason why they say never again, and a lot of the memorials and stuff that occurred when it came to that. But I think it's interesting that you're mentioning, like, sometimes we have to read into the deep, dark dark meat stuff, and that's adult novels.
Because that's how you remember.
Yep.
Like when they say never again, whatever, it's like you need, then if you want this not to be forgotten, you need to stare into that dark part of what we are and acknowledge it as bad and be like, we need to do whatever we can not to be there again.
This is why history is important, folks.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. So it's interesting because I have not read the actual Schindler's List book.
Oh man, it's heavy.
Okay.
Like I literally say, like I made a post about it on my Facebook, whatever. But it's like my personal one because I've been talking about my Kindle too. But it's like I'm reading this thing and I'm just feeling stressed.
Yeah.
Because of what, like, oh my, this is real.
Yeah.
This was real. This really happened.
Yeah.
I'm just like, so I've had to like just put it down because I'm starting to feel stressed and verklempt and like I feel like my hand like clutching my fist. We're just kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna put this aside.
Time to take a breath.
Gonna go do something else for a while that's happier and deals with happier things. I mean, granted, you can tell they gloss over some things, but they do mention them.
Yeah.
But they gloss over it. They're not gonna throw the whole dirty details at you.
Yeah.
And it's I like that the book doesn't shy away from saying that Oscar was not a perfect man.
Right. Yeah, he did some things.
He had some shady stuff and treated some people pretty badly himself.
Yeah.
But this is what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like he basically, like every moment of his life for years there, he was risking his life and wealth and whatever for all these other people.
Yeah.
And at times, it's like they hint at it more in the movie where they do at the end where like Liam Neeson's character breaks down and crying, this could have been more people, this could have been more people.
Yeah.
He was doing that constantly where he was getting more and more people trying to save him. It's kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
And like he was just, a lot of times he was just like one single person's opinion could have gotten him dragged out and shot.
Right. But he managed to continue to do his work.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow. Like, wow.
A lot of what we read about a lot of those people who made a difference is that they didn't aim to be a hero, but they saw something and said, we need to stop this, we need to fix this, let me get this taken care of, let me throw my and I think to your statement, they were not perfect, they were imperfect, they weren't the high on a pedestal kind of deal, they were just everyday
this is
person.
an everyday dude that decided I'm going to do what's right.
Yeah, I'm going to save some people that I can save and do what I can to make a difference. Yeah, that's huge. Let's take a short break. I'm going to put a pause on us because we've hit some heavy stuff. And when we come back, I might put some little break music in here. We're going to come up with our final kind of conversation here. So this has never happened in this podcast before, but I think we need a break to breathe. And we'll be right back after this to finish out the podcast with some further Nerds by Screenlight conversation. My name's Aaron.
I'm Vicki.
James.
And we'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to Nerds by Screenlight. My name is Aaron.
I'm Vicki.
I'm James.
And we're going to finish up our conversation about Umbrella Academy.
You know, in our break right there, I look into things like, you know, in the 1920s and stuff, like the curtain would come down, you had like the dancing guy, like, ding, 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 and then have like the weird little music as the intermission.
Yeah.
And then you bring back the main act afterwards. That's what our
I
little
like
break
that we're
is.
the main act.
Yeah.
Makes me feel important about my life choices. And now, the main event.
You know, the barbershop quartet comes out
Yeah.
to sing a little song while we're changing costume.
The
I was thinking
podcast.
of the dancing frog from Looney Tunes.
Hello, my baby.
Hello, my honey.
The podcast is on a break right now, but we'll be right back after this as I dance my way through the curtain. Okay, that's enough.
I always like the guy in the background who always looked at the frog like, I'm going to get so rich.
Yeah, and then you go reveal it. Brrr.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, not so much. All right, Umbrella Academy, what were you guys' first impressions, kind of feels about it as you were watching?
Enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
It's just I'm waiting to get deeper into the characters and their backgrounds and stuff like that, and what's up with them.
Really fascinating. I mean, I'm only on episode 2, but am very intrigued by all of them. Claus comes to mind, especially because you see this guy and you're just like, oh man.
Yeah, it's like what are the skeletons in your closet, old man?
And then like by episode 2, when you see, oh, he's being haunted.
Oh, you're talking about our he's
Our
a skinny guy.
our addict.
Yeah. So his
And you
Oh,
go, this
yeah,
is
Klaus.
why
Yeah,
you're
okay,
this
okay,
is
gotcha.
this is why.
so part of his special skill, it's not really a spoiler because if you figured it out, or you will figure it out soon enough, is he's able to commune with the spirits. But he can only do it if he's quote unquote sober.
Yeah.
So if he's either drinking or doing illicit drugs or whatever, his mind is not clear enough for him to talk to the spirits. What you do find out is that it's kind of a positive and a negative. Positive is, he can summon spirits, he can talk to them, but he also he just ends up talking to all of them that are around him. Like it just
Like
comes
he first
in.
wakes up in the morning and, they're like, hi.
Yeah.
That's like the Breaking Bad of the Sixth Sense
Right.
here.
We do get a sense. We do get I don't know if you've hit that point yet, but the brother that passed away is always with him.
Yeah, I'm there.
And so we get elements of him, and as the story unfolds, you'll get to see him more and more in that conversation and that kind of stuff.
But no, I was more talking about the dad.
Yeah, Dad is.
Ooh, dad. I'm
It's
kind of like you.
Cold-hearted,
Yeah, and it's also just.
controlling.
I'm like, and it's like, okay, all the stuff that what do you know?
Yeah,
What's going on there?
Yeah.
What's your deeper story, old man? Because you are a dark figure.
yeah, he is, and it gets more interesting as the show unfolds because there's layers that begin to become apparent, and what this show excels at, and what other shows have failed at, is they do as little telling as possible, and it's more of a show, but the showing is limited. But they show you enough to keep you interested and to give you something to hang on to.
Yeah.
Versus just showing you everything. And
Well,
you
that's
just
the way
go,
it should go. That's
Right.
good. Yeah.
yeah, it's a slow process, but not slow enough like 1899, which I'm still mad about. I'll be mad about I'm gonna be mad about that for a while. But I think it's a good, and people have talked about the Umbrella Academy as being one of the best shows on Netflix currently. And it's the season. I don't know if the final season is coming, but the next season, I think season 4 is on its way, is coming soon. So I'm only on season 1 right now.
Okay.
I got to get through the rest of it. Obviously, Vicki just started this morning. You just started this morning. But it'll be interesting to see how we kind of.
Yeah, but like this is
Sure.
our first kind of like series, folks. So it might be rough riding. Maybe we'll interject some other things in the middle of it as we go through it.
As
but
we've
we'll
already
see.
done today.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of. We'll probably have like
Sprinkle in some Indiana Jones movie.
our Umbrella Academy check-in will be probably once a week or so. See where we're at, how we're feeling,
Okay.
and go from there. Any other thoughts last minute about anything nerdy?
No, not right now.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer hit. I'm curious and interested to see how that goes.
I know we all can kind of guess it has something to do with Rocket.
Yeah, because we see. I've watched the trailer and it's interesting. I think I suffer from what we talked about earlier, which is superhero fatigue.
Yep.
Is like I want to be excited about a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but I'm also just like,
Can we take a break from
Can I-
Marvel,
can I
please?
please-
We need a break from Marvel.
yeah, and it's weird
Is
to
that weird
say
to
that.
say on the internet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you're
just
good.
said it.
You're fine. It's because it's true. It's like they keep like it's like they're trying to keep that hype train running year round.
Yeah.
With all these different things, it's kind of like you need to let things breathe, otherwise they become old.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like it's one of those things like you're paying off for short-term games
Yeah.
when you could have something better for longer.
Yeah.
If you took a longer view of things.
Yeah.
So it's like instead of looking down the road
Yeah.
to what's 100 miles down there,
Yeah.
you're worried about what's within 2 miles.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, no, you need to be looking further down the road.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, stop trying to do this like year-round pumping up things. Just
Right.
here's your one for the year.
Yeah.
See you next year.
Yeah. And that's like when you had James Bond. James Bond came out every couple of years. And there was enough anticipation that people were like, okay, cool, I can wait a couple of years for the next James Bond. Like, it wasn't just rapid fire. The problem with Marvel, kind of what you alluded to, is we have there's so many properties that they can develop 3 or 4 movies a year and just... And that's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to input. It's a lot to devote time to and energy to.
Yeah. And that's one of those things, too, is like, aside from the story of the Scarlet Witch we got in the Multiverse of Madness, where the hero going bad had some consequences, whatever, none of these heroes dying, none of them really have consequences. Right. Okay, we lost one, Iron Man.
Right. But even then, people were mad because Robert Downey Jr. was the best part of that.
Oh, yeah.
And they loved the Iron Man idea. They loved that character, but that character was all Robert Downey Jr. You can't have Iron Man without Robert Downey Jr. It's not going to work.
And he's stated a lot of times, I'm done.
Yep, I'm not coming back. And it's interesting. I think that's part of what you have in this modern age is that you have stars like Robert Downey Jr. who want to do something else. They want to do other things. They want to create more. Whether or not he's successful in that, who knows? But I don't know what they're going to do because you have a lot of these stars who are big stars and they want to do other things. They want to do bigger projects, and it's hard to replace the core Avengers team. We know and love the core Avengers team. Replacing them with replacing the Hulk or you can't.
That's what they're looking. It feels like what they're looking to do.
Yeah,
sure.
Is now we're going to replace the Avengers with everybody's hinting at the Thunderbolts. I think is what it is. Remember, I stay off of social media, so if they've already released a lineup of that, I guess.
have no idea.
But I just know they're like the kind of more darker version of the Avengers.
Oh, that's what we need.
Well, they were made up in the time frame of the Civil War arc on the comic books. The Thunderbolts were kind of like they stepped in as the Avengers, but they were made up of bad guys that were willing to work with.
Okay, like Suicide Squad.
Yeah, kind of, but they weren't jokey and weird like Suicide Squad.
Oh, okay.
They were dark.
I haven't seen Suicide Squad any of those movies because it just makes me angry.
It's kind of like, all right, well, if you're gonna do that, then you need to slow it down.
Yep.
Let the new heroes and stuff you want to use grow on people.
Yeah, versus trying to just flash in a pan and say, here we go.
Because that's what we had with the old Avengers.
Yeah.
They got to grow on people.
Yep, and they had multiple movies to do that and multiple interesting plots and nemesises to attack and deal with and defend and whatever.
Yeah, because now you have things are all kind of spread out everywhere.
Yep. I can't even begin to tell you where the Marvel phases are right now or what the next movie is because I'm just like, I don't even have a grasp of where it's going or how it's going.
Well, it seems like they're hinting at dimensions or time kind of thing because they brought in Kang, who deals heavily with time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
I don't know.
Where are we going? We have the dimensional threat because you did open up that door with the Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
Where are you going?
Yeah.
And who are your heroes going to be? Because you need to kind of settle into that and give us more of those heroes so that we can come to love them before they go in to fight the multi-dimensional whatever or time frame bad guy that you're going to introduce us to.
Right.
But you're not doing that right now. It seems like you're just too busy just popping up more stuff all over the place.
It's more schlock than
and throwing it at us.
Yeah.
And hoping that'll make a blockbuster.
You're going to like this character. You will like this character. You will like this character.
Yeah.
No, I don't. And you can't make me. I don't want to. Get out of my
too
face.
bad we're going to keep beating this dead horse.
If you don't like this character, then clearly you don't appreciate good content. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
keep telling yourself that.
You smell that from a mile away. You're just like, no, you're
we're
not
gonna beat this dead
me
horse until it turns into chili.
Yeah,
and keep feeding it to you.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, the chili callback. You're welcome.
We'll start calling you Sweeney Todd.
Come full circle.
But I mean, that's our media right now, and it's just kind of. I'm disappointed in it.
We had that same conversation with Chris on the video games podcast about how the games it's really a dry spell of good games.
Yeah.
Like we don't have a lot of good video games, and the stuff that we're getting isn't that great. It's just disappointing, and I think it's a state of media. It's a state of it's like.
And again, it's like callbacks to things that came before, not bad. But when all you're doing and almost all your media is doing that, that's bad.
Yeah. Well, you look at we've got Indiana Jones coming out. We've got a lot of Star Wars shows happening, which actually the shows are doing better than the movies ever did. I've tested with Andor, and I haven't.
I'm gonna binge watch Andor probably start off tomorrow.
Okay,
So-
I might dig into it as well. That can give us something to watch. We finished Obi-Wan Kenobi. Loved it.
Yes.
It
Really
was
good.
a great show.
That fight.
Yeah, yeah, intense. Mm-hmm. But it was done well in a way that it fit within the mythology. I think a lot of fanboys.
A lot of people got angry at it
Yeah.
because like finish him off. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's Obi-Wan can't kill
Yeah.
his brother, and that's why
Yeah.
he even tells Yoda in the movie, it's like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I like that he meets Luke Skywalker finally face to face and says hello there, and that's that callback to that line,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
kind of I was kind of like
He does that twice in that show.
Yeah,
where it's
and it
kinda like,
works. It's fine, whatever. But it does give us the understanding that okay, he says goodbye to Luke, he says hello, but then we know where he goes. He goes into the hills and that kind of
becomes
stuff.
that desert recluse.
I have tried to get into Boba Fett,
It's bad.
and I have struggled. Real hard. I love The Mandalorian, and I finished The Mandalorian. The new season I know is coming, but the finale of I think it was season 2 of Mandalorian
Yep.
was exceptional. It was a payoff I knew was coming, but it was just incredible to watch.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so please refrain from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's the complicated thing. I think what they did and why Boba Fett fell flat
Yeah.
is they forgot who that character was supposed to be,
Yeah.
and they gave all that good kind of grittiness and stuff and
Yeah.
gave it to the
Mandalorian,
Mandalorian
yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
So maybe they were afraid of taking a legacy character like Boba Fett and
Right.
making him the Mandalorian.
Right.
as
Well, then
the
it would
theme-liner.
just be a copy paste. It wouldn't be.
Well, no. There would have been no Mandalorian. We wouldn't
Right,
have
yeah,
whatever his name is. It would have been Boba Fett in that role
Yeah.
instead.
Got
Yeah.
it.
And that would have been Boba Fett because, the Mandalorian, the whole thing is like him being gritty and kind of whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, there's Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now you bring Boba Fett back,
Yeah.
which made fans hyped, especially when he first appears up, and those poor stormtroopers, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And we were like, yes!
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then you get the Boba Fett series, and
Yeah.
it's like he's a chump.
Yeah.
And he's betraying the character. He is the most feared
Yeah.
bounty hunter
in the universe.
in that galaxy.
Yep. And
He just suddenly is like, I want to be a good guy. It's
yeah,
like,
I want to sit on the throne. I'm going to run this town like everyone else, like it should have been.
What?
They don't have to fear me.
What?
And yeah, so I did struggle with it because
so there's all these questions like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And they don't do a good enough job to
Yep.
tell you
Yeah.
why this character wants to do that, why this character wants
Yep.
to change suddenly,
Yep.
and just run like a town. I'm like,
Yep.
what?
yeah.
I'm like, no.
It's
And
the antithesis to Boba Fett. Boba
Yeah.
Fett was always a wanderer.
Yeah,
He
a
was
loner.
He was a bounty hunter. He was on his own. He didn't play well with others. And I think if they had leaned into that and shown us
That's what they should have done.
the darker side of Boba Fett, because Mandalorian was good. He was a good hero. Like he did the things that were necessary, but in a good way. If you could take Boba Fett and do it dark, and you could do Insidious, and he could be in service to the Empire, and you could have him maybe realize halfway through the series that he needs to change his. But you need to have enough of that original content to say, okay, it could be, this is to borrow a theological aspect, but when Saul in the Bible was the, genocidal, maniacal murderer. And in a lot of ways, Boba Fett fits that main. He fits that idea of he was just a bad man. You don't mess with Boba Fett. He will mess you up.
Yeah, well, that's what we should have seen.
Right. But
Like,
didn't.
we should have seen the guy dealing with the scum of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And then somehow coming out of that. Instead,
Right.
he just comes out and it's like, happy rainbow, shiny things, and everybody's okay with me. I want to make this town more positive and happy.
Right.
It's like, what?
Yeah. It just,
No. This is the guy who's the only one Vader turned to.
Right.
Vader being the number one dark figure in that time frame.
Right.
Going like, no disintegrations, buddy.
Yeah. Like as if he's done it before.
Yes.
Like he has a habit of disintegrating his victims.
Yeah, so
or
it's
his
like
targets.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, okay. I mean, that gives you a hint right there. Okay, this guy is
Yeah.
a killer.
Yeah.
And also, out of all those bounty hunters that are
Yeah.
there, he's the only one that's like just gets Han immediately.
Yeah.
Like figures out where he's at and
Yeah.
starts following him.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's
okay.
that good at being bad.
Yeah, and it's like, all right. Like all those, they lay that groundwork for this character, and we don't see that at all
We
in Boba
lose- we
Fett.
lose any- we
And it's
lose-
kind of like,
yeah.
and then he does some stuff like in the fight scenes that make no sense.
I haven't made it that far. I think I've made it like 3 or 4 episodes in, and I was just like, what is happening?
Well, he has like the fight scene right at the start where those shields kind of surround him.
Yeah.
Why would you fire a rocket launcher at point blank range at a guy that has an energy shield that's not going through and then blow yourself up?
I don't know.
I'm kind of like, what is going on here?
Yeah. It felt like
And like, okay,
Yeah.
you are a trained like
Yeah.
killer man,
Yeah.
and you're walking straight into like these
Yeah.
ambushes where I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
This makes no sense for who you are. You should just be killing these people from the shadows,
Right.
and no one knows you're there until you show up and just say, I'm in charge now. And
Yep.
they go, okay, because they're scared of you.
Yeah. It is disappointing because it is, again, like you said, and I think that's what I struggle with. 'Cause you verbalize a lot of what I've been trying to figure out.
It's like, make this guy a bad guy. It's okay that he's a bad guy because that's what his past background is. He's the killer man.
right.
And then you put the shines on him and make him nicer as he goes.
Yeah.
Find something that's in that armor that
Right.
kind of like
have
exposes.
him, have him start to doubt his true mission, or maybe start to question, because he could talk about how he's getting older and he's starting
Yeah.
to see the like he can't.
It's like we should have seen him coming out of that Sarlacc like angry
Yeah.
as heck.
Yeah.
And wanting to get revenge on a lot of people.
yeah,
And climbing as well. Like I would have preferred like he comes out of there angry,
Yeah.
super mega angry.
yeah,
Does like kill some people to do what he needs to do to get better,
Yeah.
because obviously being digested is not a good thing.
right,
And just kill his way back to where he was at.
yeah. Like come in and seize the Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
But it's like we got
Like go find whoever was flying around in Slave Run and shoot the guy and get his ship back.
Yep.
You know, like the guy that was wearing his armor,
Yeah.
Cobb Vanth.
Yeah.
Shoot him.
Yeah.
Get your armor back.
Yep.
Or steal it in the night or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, let's see the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be a bad man.
Yep.
Let's see him be a bad man.
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
roll
yeah.
him forward, and then somehow, like,
Right. Start
I
the
haven't really
journey.
put the thought into like what could be the chink in his armor that makes him
Yeah.
realize, hey, I need to change my ways.
Right. Or maybe I need to start subverting the empire.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to find ways to destroy this thing
Mm-hmm.
without them really knowing, and that would be an interesting kind of bit of subterfuge of like, okay, how's Boba Fett going to do this? How's he going to?
Because the other thing too is they never resolved this guy's anger or with Jedi.
Yep.
Jedi chopped his dad's head off in
Yep.
front of him.
Yep. Never figured that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, it's an unusual thing because most of the Star Wars shows have been good. This is the one where it just kind of missed. It felt cheap. It didn't feel right. It just was like, what? Somebody was asleep at the wheel on this one, because everything else has been solid
Oh yeah.
and it's been really, really well done.
And like even me in my little like I don't pay attention to social media like
Yeah.
isolation chamber
Yeah.
have heard like how good Andor is. So I'm like I'm
Yeah.
already going into it going like okay,
Yeah.
if it's reached me,
Yeah.
this has got to be really good.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I've watched the first episode of Andor. It's interesting. I haven't quite been like woo, but I think it'll take an episode or two for me to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I can handle this. I'm excited
Okay.
about this. So there's hope for it, I think. But yeah, so and then Star Trek, we've got the season 3 of Picard coming soon.
Okay.
They're talking about it's going to be a sequel / continuation of DS9 and Voyager within that season 3. There's a lot of chatter out there that obviously Patrick Stewart isn't going to be continuing, and he's old. It's past his time. He needs to take a step back. But Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, all these guys, they're saying like, yeah, we're game for more. We're ready for more stuff. We're ready to do more movies or more shows with the next generation.
Well, I mean,
crew.
as it should. Like this is another thing where it's like, all right, if the actor or the role is getting old,
Yep.
where they can't carry it on anymore,
Yeah.
stop trying to drag that person out.
Stop trying to make fetch
pass
happen.
it on to someone that they would make sense to.
Yeah.
Like Jonathan Frakes' character, Riker.
Yeah.
He's supposed to succeed Picard.
Yeah.
Like he's supposed to have learned all this stuff from
Yeah.
Picard.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if Picard is now, we're going to shelve him.
Yeah.
Well, then we can focus on number 2. It's
Yep.
what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, William Riker and his ascent to command, and possibly new crew members, but old crew coming to help and serve on his ship.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a really cool idea for a show if it's written well.
Yeah.
Star Trek has not shown, aside from Strange New Worlds, Star Trek has not shown its glory with Picard seasons 1 through 2 and Discovery seasons. It hasn't shown itself or showered itself in glory when it comes to the writing. And
That just seems, as you mentioned it earlier. That's a big thing. Is like writing.
Yep.
Writing.
Yep.
It is the thing that seems to be failing the most in recent
Yep.
ages. Is
Television,
writing.
gaming, the whole 9 yards. Yep.
Yeah, it's like who's being creative anymore?
Right. And where are the ideas coming from, and what ideas are making it out of the writer's room, and what ideas are being prevented from making it out of the writer's room, because I think there's some ideas that probably are put out but are not accepted or not put forth for whatever reason.
We can't take risks.
Yeah, you got to take risks. As Captain Kirk once said in Star Trek the original series, risk is our business.
Yeah.
And that's what life should be, risk risking it and taking chances. Well, on that delightful bombshell of life advice, I think that's where we can end it today. My name's Aaron.
I'm Vicki.
I'm James.
And this has been Nerds by Screenlight. We will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
I gotta click the button.
The raspberry flapovers will be out in a moment. The kitchen is closed.
You've been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, a language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.